Another mistake that I made was, and I think this is probably fairly common for people getting pheasants for the first time. Welcome back to Deer Valley Homestead with me, Andy. This week we are taking a look at our 3 aviaries for pheasants. What's good about them, what's wrong with them, and what we are going to do with the new one. This is the first aviary we built. We built this in the spring of 2023, so it's now 2 years old. And this is our second aviary that we built in the spring of last year, so it's now 1 year old. And this area is going to be our third aviary, hopefully in the next few weeks. Just depends when the ground defrosts enough that we can start work and it's warm enough to use our hands outside with gloves. It is a pain doing all the wiring when it's cold and you can't wear gloves. But back to the first aviary. What do you think about the aviary, huh? Or you just want to chew my jacket? Always the same, huh? So this is the first aviary we built back in 2023. I think it was around April time. And we built it knowing that we had some pheasants coming. I received some golden pheasants for my birthday. Before that, we were given some pheasants by Beata's sister Terry. She had raised them up in the incubator. She kept a couple and she gave a couple to us, which was awesome. However, it did mean that I rushed this project just a little bit. I wasn't quite ready when they turned up, and I did make a whole bunch of mistakes. The first one of which has brought me pain ever since. And this is the first mistake. Why, oh why did I think it was a good idea to put a half-height gate on the entrance? Every time we come in, we have to get down and come back up. I know how it happened, but it's just awful. It happened because I'd built these 2 panels for a different project. That project got cancelled and I was like, well, I might as well use them for the pheasant aviary, but I really didn't think it through. Whenever this one either gets repaired, revamped, or whatever happens to it, that gate is going somewhere else where we don't need a full height gate. The next mistake I made is with the netting on the roof. I put it on and I tied it on with a piece of twine, and I remember telling everyone at the time, make sure you use a piece of twine that is UV resistant, otherwise it will just rot away in the sun. And guess what? I said it to you guys, I didn't do it myself. That piece of twine lasted around 3 months before it completely disappeared, rotted away in the sun and fell to the ground. Thankfully, when I put the net up, I had hooked it onto every one of these wires on the fence, and that held it in place and has held it ever since. Up here is another mistake, and this was something that I just didn't think about. We already had this birdhouse here. It's an octagon shape, has 4 bird nests in it, which is super cool. It was already here when we built the aviary, and I hadn't considered what might happen if our little birdies jumped out and landed straight on the net. And indeed, last year we did lose one little birdie who jumped out and got stuck in the top of the net. So either this aviary needs to move or that birdhouse needs to move. Of course, there are no pheasants in here at the moment. Since it was an aviary at the very beginning, we had pheasants in here for around a year. Then we had a number of predator problems, which I'll get onto in a minute. Then we used it as a rabbit colony towards the end of last year. And now we have 5 silkies in here. This is part of a new project. We're going to try and breed these guys this year. We'll see how that goes. Another mistake that I made was, and I think this is probably fairly common for people getting pheasants for the first time, the roosts and the roof protection. I now know that my pheasants don't care about having a roof over their heads. In fact, the only time they really hang out underneath the roof is when there's heavy snow on the floor, and they hang out there just because it's easier for them not walking through the snow. Overnight, they will sit out in the rain, the snow, the fog, the drizzle. It doesn't matter. They want to sit in the highest spot. And of course that was up here in the middle of the aviary and not down in their house at the bottom. I built it on the basis of it was better to have one and not need it rather than need one and not have one. So it's pretty much never been used. The one thing it does get used for was the dust bath. The other spot that became a dust bath was this roof. And I put this in just to give them another space that was dry and a little bit more ability to hide. In the summer, it's great because the grass is up, 2 feet tall. It is currently stripped and there is no grass growing at the moment. We probably have another 2 or 3 months for that to happen. So it's nice for them to have some protection. We actually added this wicker and then this became their favorite area. They would hang out here all the time. And after that, we added a couple more patches. There's one over here and there's one behind you. The last and probably biggest mistake that I made was this chicken wire. I put this chicken wire 50 centimeters up and 50 centimeters out on the inside and then buried it and let the grass go through it. In my mind, this was 100% predator proof and it was going to last a long time. Why oh why I put non-galvanized, non-stainless steel. Hey puppy, that can't be tasty. Are you sure? Why oh why I put non-stainless steel, non-galvanized chicken wire in the ground and thought it was gonna last, I have no idea. I've known better than that for a long time. Why I did it, I do not know what I was thinking. But as you can imagine, very quickly, it has broken off at the ground level and now it's worthless. It is going to be quite a big job to get rid of this, but I am going to do it at some point in the spring once the ground defrosts just a little bit. Hey chickies! You guys are looking good. Now, our second aviary we built last year in the spring. This one has been much better. But I do still have a few problems. Number one, I did make the door a little bit higher, but I still have to bend down to go through it, which is a pain. And on the inside, I put this netting. So now when you go through, it's like that scene in Ace Ventura Pet Detective. You feel like you're being born. It's just a disaster. Every time I come in, I get caught somewhere, a button, something. My idea was it was like a double safety. It was gonna stop the pheasants being able to get out when I went in and out, but honestly they've never tried. And I guess it is a double safety in case the door ever comes open, but it's just a pain and it makes me not want to. It makes me not want to come in here as much. Oh, chicken laying an egg. It makes me not want to come in here as much, which sucks because these birds are super cool and I want to spend some time in here with them. Of course, pheasants are pretty touchy. You may see one fly past any second. The next problem I have with this aviary is this feeder. It's awesome, it works. They don't really spill any food out the bottom, but I have to come inside to fill it up. And that is a pain. So I need to do something about that, especially in the new one, and maybe I'll get to fix this one. I'm thinking of putting some kind of attachment so that I can fill it from outside. Something like that, I'm not sure. These guys are crazy. The other mistake that I made in here is twofold, and they go hand in hand, so I'm just going to say it at the same time. I put mesh across the whole floor so that there was no chance of anything getting in here, and I was trying to make it as 100% predator proof as I possibly could. Now that has worked, but it does mean that I have mesh all the way across the floor. It makes it really hard to grow anything in here, and it makes it really hard for these pheasants to have a dust bath or anything like that. So that's something that I need to work on in the future. B has put some evergreen branches and some nest boxes in here for them, but it is still just a little bit too open. They need a little bit more cover, places to hide, places to lay eggs, all that kind of stuff. My plan is to build the new aviary, and we'll tell you all about that in a minute. But in here, I would not recommend putting the mesh across the whole floor. It will be 100% predator proof, but it's just overkill. I should have done the standard 20 centimeters around the outside, a foot, something like that, and just a little bit on the inside to stop anything trying to dig out as well. And I think that would have given these guys a better space for their dust bath, and me more opportunity to plant some plants and things like that in here. That would be great for them. If you want to see the build video for this aviary, you can click the link here. And if you want to see the build video for the next aviary, which we're about to talk about, subscribe, hit that little notification button. That video will be coming in the next 3 to 4 weeks as soon as the ground thaws out and I can start putting some ground anchors in and stuff like that. The last thing that I absolutely love in this aviary is this old vine that we put up as a roost for them. They spend a lot of time up here, especially overnight. They love it. And you can see it's completely worn out by how much they are up here. The last feature I'm going to mention that I absolutely love is this wooden profile along the bottom. It does need a new coat of treatment on it, but it's great. Anything that goes on, the pheasants don't really see outside on this side, and it just gives them that little bit of a sense of security that on 3 sides they're protected, and they love it. They will hang up and down here all day long, whereas where it's unprotected, they tend to shy away from that area just a little bit. Alright, our third aviary is going to go here around this tree stump. This is a cherry tree. We took out the garden the end of last year. It didn't make nice cherries for the last 3 years. We tried pruning it, we tried everything. They were just disgusting cherries, so we got rid of the tree. That is going to form the basis in the middle of the aviary. And then we have this next greenhouse frame that Bee's mum gave us. Bee has painted it for us, so it's pretty much ready to go. It's just a question of finding the time and waiting until the weather's warm enough that we can actually put some stakes in the ground to hold it down and hold the mesh protection down. I'm going to build it much the same as the other one, except I'm not going to put the mesh all the way through the floor. Now at this point I would tell you, the plans for this are not finished. I'm still very open to your ideas. Maybe you have pheasants, maybe you've spotted some mistakes that I've made in the previous 2. Throw them down in the comment section. Like I say, I'm not going to start this project for at least 2 weeks. This is your opportunity to save me some pain and give me some good ideas. The rough plan is very similar to the second aviary. It will have some wood around the bottom, it will have some mesh, it will have some netting on top, and it will have a roofed space. I'm going to try and correct the door somehow, and I'm going to try and correct the feeder somehow. Apart from that, I'm not planning on making a huge amount of changes. So if you think of something that would be a good idea, let me know, stick it in the comment section. And if you want to watch the build, subscribe, ring that little bell. You'll get a notification when the video comes out nearly every Saturday. And you'll get to see what actually becomes of this project and this idea. But hopefully within about a month it should be finished. Now this one is actually slightly bigger than the first one. And our plan is hopefully by the end of the year to end up with 10 ladies who we can breed next year, and maybe 2 guys who will keep around. Mostly just in case one of them dies, and also just to keep a bit of different blood in the mix. So hopefully we'll end up with a flock of 12, and if there's any extras we will sell them on to someone else. Between these 2 aviaries I'm going to leave a space that is exactly the same size as these 2 aviaries, and the idea there is that maybe one day we'll put a 3rd one in the middle of these 2. Not sure if that'll happen or not. It's not currently in the plan. It's just a little bit of future proofing to leave that space there just in case. Next week we're going to be looking at some of our plans, what animals are arriving this year. Currently we have 50 eggs from 3 different chicken species in the incubator. Those should be popping out in 2 days time, so about the time this video is released. We still have the USA Silkies, who you saw me put in the brooder a couple of weeks ago. Those are getting ready to move to the outside brooder. And we also have 13 turkey eggs in our incubator inside. Hopefully those might hatch as well. So busy times. As always, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and ring that little bell, and you'll see our videos every Saturday. Thank you very much for the support. I hope you have a good week, and we will catch you next time. Come on puppy, let's go for a walk. Where do you want to go today? Forest or field?